the theater of the mind.
Many of the rhythmic sounds that we have here were probably where the essence of this song came from.
Aldous Huxley's terrifying forecast of the future, Brave New World.
So I discovered this radio play of the novel Brave New World, narrated by Aldous Huxley, and also, interestingly, the music was composed by Bernard Herrmann, who is one of my favourite film composers. One of the books that actually got me into sci-fi in the first place, that and John Wyndham's Day of the Triffids. So listening through this radio play, I noticed something really interesting about the Foley that was being used. So it wasn't so much the music, there was something slightly unusual about it to me. I couldn't put my finger on why. There was this one particular scene where they go into a lab and they see all these test tube babies, and you can hear test tubes plonking and machinery going. So I basically sampled a load of that. That is a load of people gasping. I've called it a gasp snare at the word mother, because that was a very controversial term in this novel, as I'm sure many of you know, but if you don't, that's fine. The concept of a mother, because everybody was born from test tubes, basically. This kind of sonic palette, so dramatic sounding. That essentially was the bed for this song, and I don't think I was aware of what influences ended up kind of funneling in together for this song when I started. Another influence of this track was the 2001 film Artificial Intelligence. One scene in particular from this film stuck with me since the first time I watched it and bled into the inspiration for parts of this song. Towards the end, where he goes down into the sea, he's searching for the blue fairy, he finds her, he stays with her and he prays to her, and he's there praying to become a real boy. He's there for so long that the world as we know it ends, essentially. The sea freezes over and he's just there under the ice.
Through all the hours, all the years will go by, and you'll find your love all the water.
So interesting. Absolute bare bones. No chords, just bass. This wasn't the used bass sound at the end, but one thing that was kept absolutely as it was in the original demo, that's how it is in the final version, is this FM synth. And that also was an Ableton instrument. I do this sometimes, drawing in random patterns by eye, drawing the MIDI in. This was not played. I don't know what the logic is behind some of my choices. I think I just go, okay, well, I don't want a regular rhythm. It's a very syncopated part. That was deliberate. I wanted to go, okay, well, we don't want everything on the downbeat or the backbeat, so we'll have some stuff going on. This note here in particular, that's on the second semi-quaver of the second beat. And that's what creates that syncopation. I'm going to try and program it as though it's a sequence. So the part goes. Okay. The vocal melody, bar one section, which was the outro section that came right at the end of the writing process and is what tied it together. The vocal melody, aside from that, existed from the beginning, and it was only the lyrics of the chorus that I came up with right at the beginning and stayed as they were. The verses took a little bit of discovery and figuring out what the song was about before I could kind of develop them, and actually the lyrics originally are something completely different. Maybe slightly similar, actually. The first line, it was "sun won't crawl," but I couldn't make that make sense in the context of what the song had become thematically. So it ended up being "sun won't crawl, but it reaches out." I think it was "bleaches out" originally. Quite a lot was added to the original demo, and the arranging of this song was very much a collaboration between me and Tim, aka TJ Allen. Some really evocative textures were added by Tim, and one of those was some bowed guitar, which in context you might not notice, or you might think that it's maybe a string instrument. Well, it is a string instrument, but more traditionally a bowed string instrument. That's leading into the chorus to help move in and out of the sections. Nice. Also part of the more atmospheric. This was a much later edition, this. The Mofo X4 by Dave Smith. That was added much later, actually, and it was so that there was some kind of call and response, something to counteract in the gaps where the vocal wasn't happening. So I wanted a bit more flow coming in and out of those. Also in synth world, this bass sound, we tried so many different synths. That's the bass in the chorus. We wanted something with a lot more attitude, but not so much that it felt a little bit kind of just too heavy, stylistically speaking. And this was the Korg Monopoly that we used in the end, but we auditioned lots of different instruments, and that was the one that kind of had the balance right between it having enough attitude and drama, but it not feeling suddenly like it wanted to be a really heavy song but wasn't quite reaching that. There is a lot in the way of real instruments in this one, maybe more so than synths, actually. We've already heard the bowed guitar, but we also have a really lovely bass guitar part that Tim played. I particularly like what it does in the chorus, which is just a bit... just the way that it moves. On top of that, we've got the bowed guitars, but the other acoustic instruments that we have, piano, the low octave piano is actually quite a big part of the sound in the chorus. There's some Rhodes as well. Drum-wise, this is what the original beats that I showed you, the first kind of incarnation of, this is what they ended up sounding like. We just weren't into how sparse they were. We're both very into groove and for something to feel like it's really rolling and kicking in. So Tim added these beats. Actually, this is both of them together. This is his beats and the original ones. So they're a lot less sparse, they're a bit more regular, and that I think was the key. We were a bit stuck. So the intro was so different at the beginning. It was just that really sparse bass part and the sparse beat. And it was the bringing in of the Rhodes and the fleshing out of that drum part that kind of brought it closer to where we wanted it. And again, we auditioned so many different bass sounds for that intro, or just generally that part, but the intro just was not feeling right. We tried sticking to the original sound from Ableton. We tried all of the synths that we had access to. We tried bass guitar. Nothing was working. Then Tim came up with the idea to use Rhodes instead. That was in conjunction with an 808 bass. So it took us a very long time to get to that point and to be happy with it. He did also add some acoustic drum sounds as well. Having enough in the way of organic sounds in the arrangement was really important to us. So this one in particular seems to have a lot more of that, actually. Structurally speaking, the song for a long time did not have that outro section.
Ooh, your heart won't sleep under the eyes.
It's a bit of an unusual one because the chorus is not really a chorus in that it's more of a theme or a refrain because it doesn't have a vocal part. So for that reason, we did feel that maybe it was a bit lacking in that area, but this part is what we added.
Ooh, years will go by and you'll find your love. Ooh, your heart won't sleep.
It just happened to fit perfectly, or maybe I was writing it over the part, I might have had it on loop, but over the lead synth line for the chorus.
Under the eyes.
So we used the same lead synth, but we changed the chords underneath, so it was an entirely new section, harmonically speaking.
Years will go by and you'll find your love.
This final chorus part, although there aren't any lyrics vocally speaking, we wanted it to feel mega dramatic, so I ended up layering up tons of vocals, which I just improvised, just kind of layered up as I went, and then we thinned it out and edited it a bit afterwards, but this is what it ended up as. Somewhere in that final ascending part is Tim. The lowest part that you can hear there is Tim. In the process of this song, I learned that it's okay not to have a vision from the very beginning. Sometimes that can be useful, but it's okay to just trust the process and learn along the way and discover and find out for yourself. And it might end up being about something that you didn't even know you cared about or knew about at the time. I guess that would be my advice to any other artists or songwriters out there who may feel a bit directionless with an idea, or, you know, maybe it doesn't mean anything, but just trust that everything that you're absorbing and everything that you care about and surrounding yourself with is feeding into your work in some way, and it might just take a little bit of perspective to see what that is.